here I am. Like, it wasn't until 94 where Dave asked me to be a partner. And the only reason I was a partner was because everybody else walked out because of me. The whole entire staff, 30, 40, 50 people said, like in 94, hey, Dave, if you don't step down from your position and you and Ray get the fuck up out of here, then everybody's walking.
And let me just say that I've heard these stories year after year, even working at the source and being there. Like I wasn't there. I was very young.
Some of your friends were. Puerto Rico, remember Puerto Rico? We could talk about that too. Remember Puerto Rico? Who was in the van in Puerto Rico?
First of all.
No, but it's true. Some of your friends were there. Some of your friends were there. At the
time, some people that I was very cool with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, no, yeah, I'm not holding you nothing for that.
They were there. But I did get maybe bits and pieces of the story from not just friends that might have been here, for other people, and that story was passed down year after year.
What did you hear that I'm going to tell you my version? How about that?
Okay, I heard that, and look, I have so much more information now because I've done my homework.
But what did you hear back then? What did you hear back then?
Back then, I heard that the almighty RSO... Why are you laughing?
Go ahead.
The almighty RSO.
Yeah, because that's what it was, the almighty RSO. That's what the fuck it was. It was crazy.
So this was your rap group at the time. The almighty RSO kind of used to bully the staff, right?
Right.
And that at a certain point, the staff stood up to you guys and decided that... You laughing?
No, because
decided that they weren't
going
to take it anymore. So they wrote a letter and a petition to have Dave step down. And in that letter, which I have since seen.
You got the letter?
I saw
Is that lady? Is that letter crazy? You would have thought I was.
I didn't see that letter till 2026.
What was the dude's name for Hannibal Lecter? You would have thought I was Hannibal Lecter. You would have thought that I was in the corner eating people's feet and arms. It's like, what? Listen. All right, so let me tell my side.
Wait,
you got more? You got more? I didn't know there was more, but go ahead.
So they put this letter forth, this petition, asking him to step down.
Sent it to everybody, by the way, in the industry.
Sent it to the industry.
All the
I did hear that.
Labels, radio stations, everywhere.
Right, and then when he didn't step down, the majority of the staff walked out.
Right.
That's what I heard happened in 94.
That's exactly what happened. Now, from my standpoint, we was living in Boston, so we wasn't living in New York.
I'm still on you eating people in the corner.
No, yeah, it's like because the letter. The letter was like
you were pretty bad.
It was like a packet.
You do recognize that there was a piece of you that was pretty bad to work for.
Well, I want to know what was,
and I will tell you.
All right, but let me tell you what my side of the story.
Okay.
As far as the walkout, and then we can.
So sorry. Can you just put that mic in a little bit closer to you?
Okay, so let me tell you as far as my side of the story. Like, me and Dave had a relationship, and I wasn't, when everybody's like, stop saying you discovered the source. What's his name from Philly? Chris? What the fuck is his name?
There were a lot of Chris's.
This bozo keeps texting me, why do you keep saying you discovered the source? You didn't discover the source. I was like, well, you shut the... I said, where are you at? I said, I don't give a fuck about that. I said, where are you? How about me and you link up and you say that to me?
These are the anger issues.
No, but this is the shit I have to deal with. So this is years later.
Right.
So I never claimed to say that I found the source. Right. Dave Mays and his 3 college buddies, John Schechter, H. Edward Young, and now the deceased James Bernard. Right. He committed suicide. Okay.
I heard. Horrible.
They was all going to different Ivy League schools, and they came together because the idea was Dave's.
Mm-hmm.
And I think,
how do you know the idea was Dave's?
Well, because Dave had a radio show, all right, at Harvard. It was Dave's show. Mm-hmm. John had a rap group called BMOC. Mm-hmm. Big man on campus. So bozos mean nothing, whatever. I used to hate John Schechter.
Do you still hate him?
I don't be around him to hate him, but since the last time I was dealing with him, I hate him. Most likely, I still hate him. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And this is why. And you know what?
I never met him. I don't think.
Disliked him. Let me use dislike because hate is such a
strong word. You got hate. You gotta love somebody.
Hate. No. Let's use hate because this is what I didn't like. Okay. Now back then, John was like the original culture vulture. way before Eminem even was thought of.
Oh my God.
Jay
We are
Schechter.
not allowed to say Eminem ever on
No,
this
no, no. Yeah,
podcast.
we're going to talk about that. Yeah, because you got a lot to do with that. Jay Schechter. Jay Schechter was Dave's roommate. Dave was a white guy that just was cool, man. Like, some white guys are just
Some
the
white
way.
guys are cool.
No, but damn right. Because they are who they are. They don't. When you try hard to fit in, is when it gets awkward.
You don't think Dave tried hard to fit in?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Dave grew up in D.C. That's a black neighborhood. He had black friends. He went to college with black. I mean, he was around them. That counts. If you're in Wyoming and you never grew up around a black person, then you're going to be shaped different if you in Washington D.C.
I get it. But let's table that part. Let's table that part because there's so much there. There's so much there because I really also feel like sometimes when a story comes out of the source, it becomes this story of like, oh, the great white hope, like the white man saved hip hop with this wonderful, magazine. Like everybody was a piece of that history.
Well, but we got to give Dave his flowers because
I never want to take Dave's flowers away.
No, but
he is not. He does not stand alone.
No. But I would disagree. And this is where Dave stands
alone.
This is where he stands alone because certain things in history, Dave is a history transcending person, and this is how. At the time in 1988, hip hop was 15 years old. All right, and it was still finding its legs. Advertising and companies definitely weren't.
He was the business side.
All right, but not just the business side. He had the vision. Dave was looking at Rolling Stone back there at Harvard, and he had the vision. He put out one piece of newsletter from his radio show that he had 2 hours every Saturday because, Harvard's playing classical
I get it, but I want to move on from Dave because Dave's story is boring to me.
No.
Dave has always been kind of boring.
I'm just saying.
Your role in the source
yeah, but
is part of the source story that makes it better.
But
because without that, it's just a boring old story about.
You can't have a peanut butter jelly sandwich with just jelly.
The dorm room, and he was like, "Oh, we're gonna have this great hip hop magazine." Like, no,
he didn't do that. But he did. Well, almost. Like Dave, I'm telling you, matter of fact, it was like that. Dave was like really gun ho because he loved hip hop. He came from a go-go background, but he loved hip hop, and he really wanted to make his mark. He knew that he couldn't rap. He knew that he couldn't make beats. John was in a group, but he couldn't. But he wanted to be a part of it, and this was his way to be a part of it.
Right, but it with the 4 people that came together with him.
That was after the vision, Dave.
Right. Okay,
that
fine.
was after.
Listen, I don't have no problem with giving him like, I have the light bulb in my head. I'm gonna do a magazine.
Yeah, but that's everything.
I'm the first person ever thought about
that's
doing a
everything in
magazine.
hip hop.
I get it, but let's move past the Dave thing. The Dave shit be boring me. I can't even front.
No. It's not necessarily that. It's just how the story. Like the thing was when it got to '94. The point I was trying to make was I didn't have anything necessarily to do with the Source magazine from '88 to 1990.
Right.
Like me and Dave developed a really good friendship. I was a rap group. Dave helped us get a couple of deals from inviting people from New York to come to Boston.
So will you agree? Dave was the business guy.
Absolutely.
That's where he gets his props and his credit.
Well, yeah, but he started out with the creative vision. He ended up being the leader of, really the pioneer of advertising and bringing companies to hip hop, the pioneer, but also he had the creative vision to understand that hip hop was still growing and hip hop needed to be covered the same way Rolling Stone covered rock.
Right. And so he gets flowers for that. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's almost like
we all get a little piece of flower.
Yeah, the guy that invented the light, we got to,
a little piece of flower.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
Everybody can have a little piece of the source flower. And I think the problem with the source and the story with the source is that whoever is getting the flowers wants to hold the flowers and they don't want to give a little petal to everyone else that contributed to a legacy.
Well, that only goes on how important you was. Like, look at you. You've turned your time at the Source into a lot of other amazing things. Books, TV producer. You've done a lot of stuff from that. Not saying that you wouldn't have did it without that.
Right.
But if you was at the Source and you didn't go, because a lot of people have. There's a lot of people
graduated
went on to do major stuff from the Source.
The story.
So if you didn't, that was pretty much like not a reflection of you, but that was on you.
Right.
So, you know, with me, I was a street guy, man. I was selling drugs. Like when Dave met me, I was selling a lot of drugs.
Right.
And from 88 to 94, I was selling a lot of drugs. I had a rap group. All my money was going into the group. Dave invited people down. We got a couple of deals. But we used to go to the Source when it was on Broadway, on Houston and Broadway. And this is what they're talking about bullying. Let's say we go up there and there's T-shirts on somebody's table. We might take the T-shirt off the table. Like, it ain't that serious.
Right, it wasn't that serious.
Like,
You're saying they exaggerated.
Me and John never liked each other.
So you're saying this idea of the almighty R, so you with, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 people would be up at the offices and y'all was taking promo shirts.
Promo shirts. That's the most of it. And maybe 2 times the DJ would take some albums off of somebody's desk. But it wasn't like we was like bullying them, beating them up, and like we wasn't starting trouble. We wasn't even really dealing with them.
Right.
Their problem was because we were so close with Dave, and they felt like Dave's supposed to be with them. See, that was the thing. The whole time the Source, from the inception of the Source, Dave's with us chilling, and the whole Source staff everyone's happy because it's the Source, and they all have jobs, and it's a great thing.
It was definitely the best job I ever had.
It was an amazing job. Not just
best job I ever had.
Because it was an amazing job, because it was never done before. You could come out of college and write about hip hop, something that you love.
Yep.
Like, what's better than this? Is a dream job for you. You know what I'm saying? It's better than working for the New York Times, writing some shit that you don't want to write about.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's what I think maybe we all took for granted back then.
Maybe, but
I think a lot of people took it for granted that we had.
That's a good way to put it. I could see that.
Job where
I could see that.
Like, I looked forward to coming to work until a certain point.
Right.
Until a certain point.
Right.
But it was fun, right? Like, it was my friends. We were all like doing something that we loved, and
y'all was getting a lot of props. Y'all was like, the city was looking at y'all in a big way. We always go to clubs and we get carte blanche. I mean, the respect was there, man. Like, you know, and then you could deal with all the top artists of our time. Like, what's better than that?